This is Eric Eldon with TechCrunch TV, and I am live here in San Francisco for the first ever technology protest that I am aware of. It is regarding SOPA and PIPA, the twin bills making their way through Congress. We're going to be going around and talking to some of the organizers of the event. Let's get started.
Technology has created over 4 million jobs, and we are the biggest contributor of new jobs in the United States. Please do not hurt that.
Here I am with Ron Conway, of renowned angel investor in Silicon Valley. Ron, let me ask you first, have you ever been to a technology protest before?
We were talking about this on the way down here. About 25 years ago, there was a big protest that John Doerr organized in San Jose, and thousands of people showed up. What's funny is I don't remember. I think it was around immigration, but I'm not sure.
Well, this is certainly the biggest one in decades.
Yes, for sure.
Now that the internet exists and it's 25 years later, it's
right,
mostly happening
right.
online. What do you feel that doing an in-person protest like this is really adding to the discussion?
Well, I think what it adds to the discussion is that entrepreneurs and founders of companies are concerned about these issues, and they're willing to come out and be counted. If you look here and look at all the signs and who's holding those signs, I can tell those are entrepreneurs who are founders of tiny companies that are going to grow, and this law, if enacted, would impact their businesses, and so they have to get involved.
What is your sense about what's happening in Washington right now? I mean, you're well connected. I'm sure you're talking to people there. Do you feel like there's a big sea change? That's being reported now, but it's hard to tell how serious it is.
Yeah, I think people are pausing in Washington, which we appreciate, because they're starting to understand that the impact of this proposed legislation is much worse than anybody thought. And so we are hoping that in Washington they will dial the clock back and re-examine the entire issue with the technology representatives in the room. And why not find a way to solve the piracy problem through technology?
Great.
And with this focus, maybe something really good can come out of this.
So tell us a little bit more about that. I mean, you said on stage a minute ago that there can be technological solutions to this. What is the sort of thing you have in mind?
Well, I'm not an entrepreneur or technologist, but I know if we took some of the great technologists in Silicon Valley and New York and put them in a room, and we put our minds behind it, just like all the other innovation, we could use technology to solve this issue.
Why are you guys here at a venue? I mean, you're doing a lot of activism online. What's the importance for you about showing up to Civic Center in San Francisco?
Yeah, I think there are a number of reasons. I mean, first of all, Mozilla is a nonprofit organization. We're based here in Silicon Valley. We're all about openness on the web, supporting free expression, privacy, and we look at this issue as really bringing into question fundamental freedoms online, and we feel like this is really recasting the intellectual property regime for the web in a way that undermines our users. So we're here today to really show support for the issue.
How do you hope that these types of issues will play out in the future? I mean, Hollywood, in many people's eyes, rammed it through behind closed doors, and now everyone was caught by surprise. What do you want to see, like ideally for any tech policy issue? How do you want to see that treated?
So, I mean, there are sort of two different dimensions to that question. First is certainly in terms of the specifics of these bills. I mean, we think we need to start over again, and we need to slow the process down. It took 8 years for us to consider the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. We've had other copyright type measures in Congress that have failed when they've gone through the scrutiny and multi-stakeholder process, but we think we need to go through that here. We need to really understand, again, what are the specific use cases that we're solving for. So we were very happy to see the White House announce that they'd like to see a multi-stakeholder process. We want to participate in that. Mozilla would like to be a convener here in Silicon Valley for those interests to come together. So I think that's one part of this. So I think going forward we need to have that dialogue. The second part, though, is as a tech community, how do we engage on these issues in the future? We have a tremendous amount of regulation happening around the world on privacy, data protection. We've got breach notification requirements. We have net neutrality laws in different countries around the world. Right, so there's a very long list of regulatory proposals that impact the web, and we can't just be a one-issue, have a one-issue focus as a strategy. So I think we need to have more conversation to figure out how we're going to deal with that.
Here with Elizabeth Stark. She is a lecturer and founder of Ideas for a Better Internet at Stanford University, and she is here to talk about what the other options are besides ramming through some crazy legislation. So what are the other options, Elizabeth?
So the MPAA and the content industry would have us believe that we need legislation for this issue. Actually, that's very likely not the case. As we've generally seen with Congress, they don't understand technology, right? There's this big meme right now of, hey Congress, maybe you guys should get technology. In the hearing for SOPA, we had Congress people that had absolutely no idea what DNS was at all. They barely even know what a domain name is, and then they're just voting through amendments and they're co-sponsoring and supporting that bill. So there is one option called the Open Act in the House, proposed by Representative Darrell Issa, that would enable the U.S., I believe, Trade Commission, the International Trade Commission, to deal with these issues, much like we deal with, say, counterfeit drugs and other issues internationally. Now, some folks in the industry support that, others say actually more legislation is not good. What we need is industry coming together to work on these issues and problems as opposed to Congress stepping in the way.
What are some changes that you could see coming out of this for how people approach legislating the internet or technology legislation in the future?
I see this as a watershed moment for the technology community. Never before have we seen as many disparate parts of the community coming together. I mean, it makes sense, right? Startups want to build and innovate and create new technology. They don't want to engage with Congress. But when something so egregious as this legislation comes about, they're forced to, and they have really stepped up to the plate. So I think going forward, we'll see a lot more coordination amongst the technology industry and community, and we'll be ready. I mean, this isn't going away, by the way. We're going to see SOPA coming back in February. We're going to see people still trying, Reed, I believe, is pushing PIPA through. We have to be ready. This is not the end.